Hi. Oil and gas are limited resources. They take millions of years to form naturally. This is why we call them non-regenerable. As anything in limited supply, it can end, right? No, wrong. Let me explain you why there is no end in sight for petrol and gas. It was 2008. The world crisis started to unfold closing to my country. People were talking and I was trying to understand what is happening. It was then when I discovered Stephen Lieb's book, The Coming Economic Collapse: How You Can Thrive When Oil Costs 200 a barrel. I was impressed. It was a good book written by somebody in the oil business with deep understanding of the issue. I was so impressed that I wrote not one but two blogs about it. The oil was 120 a barrel and rising. The book introduced me to the Hubert's peak theory that made so much sense.
The Hubbert peak theory, proposed by geologist M. King Hubbert in the 1950s, predicts that for a given geographic area, such as an oil field or a country, the rate of oil extraction follows a bell-shaped curve over time. The key points of the theory are as follows. Finite resource. Oil is a finite resource, and there is a limit to how much can be extracted. Production curve. The theory posits that oil production in a region will increase over time, reaching a peak, and then decline. The curve is typically symmetric, reflecting a gradual buildup of production as fields are developed and then a decline as resources become depleted. Peak oil. The peak refers to the point at which oil production reaches its maximum rate. After this peak, production will enter a decline phase, even as the total amount of oil left in the resource may still be significant. Time frame. The timing of the peak depends on the production rates, the total amount of recoverable oil, and the discovery of new reserves. Implications. The Hubbert peak theory has significant implications for energy policy, economics, and environmental considerations, as it underscores the potential for declining oil production and the eventual transition to alternative energy sources.
By that time, there was a consensus about the imminent reach of the Hubert's peak for most of the producing countries. Most of the predictions look like this graph produced by the government of the USA in 2004. It looks clear, elegant, true, but it didn't happen. What really happened is what you see in the following two graphs with the oil and gas production of the United States of America. Everything was going according to the theory, following Hubert's curve, and then it diverged. Instead of dropping, the production increased. The United States of America are today the world's largest producer and exporter of oil and gas. It should have peaked years ago. Why didn't it happen? Well, because of capitalism. When oil approached Hubert's peak, it started to get more expensive. The more expensive it gets, the more interesting were alternatives.
The amount of oil that can be extracted from a well, known as the recovery factor, varies widely depending on several factors, including type of reservoir, extraction method, and technology used. On average, it is estimated that about 20% to 35% of the total oil in place can be extracted using conventional techniques. In some cases, enhanced oil recovery (EOR) techniques can increase extraction rates, allowing recovery of 30% to 60% or even more, depending on the specific method and reservoir characteristics. Overall, while the average recovery factor is around 30% for conventional oil reservoirs, the actual percentage can differ significantly from one well or field to another. So, this was one way of increasing production, by improving the recovery factor. Fracking, or hydraulic fracturing, became a significant method for extracting oil and gas in the United States the early 2000s. While the technique had been developed and used in various forms since the 1940s, its widespread commercial application for extracting oil and natural gas from shale formations did not take off until advancements in technology occurred. Key developments include 1. Horizontal drilling. The combination of hydraulic fracturing with horizontal drilling, which access to more of the resource in a shale formation, was pivotal. Horizontal drilling became more prevalent in the late 1990s and early 2000s. 2. Shale gas boom. The shale gas boom, particularly the discovery of large reserves in formations such as the Barnett Shale in Texas, early 2000s, and later the Marcellus Shale in the northeastern U.S. mid to late 2000s, drove the rapid adoption of fracking. 3. Economics. The increasing prices of oil and natural gas also made fracking more economically viable, leading to a surge in production and investment in shale oil and gas extraction. By the late 2000s and into the 2010s, fracking became a cornerstone of the U.S. energy landscape, contributing significantly to the country's rise in domestic oil and natural gas production and impacting global energy markets. The technique continues to play a crucial role in the energy industry today. Alternative energy sources such as solar power and wind power kicked in as new, viable alternatives to oil and gas. The interest for alternative sources was sparked by a number of solid arguments as 1. Concerns related to global warming, climate change. 2. Governments do not like to rely on the suppliers of oil and gas that use to manipulate supply in order to extract major financial benefits. 3. The high price of oil and gas spurred innovation in alternative sources. The efficiency of solar panels and wind turbines kept increasing until it finally became cheaper to produce green energy. The World Energy Outlook 2024 is an annual report published by the International Energy Association. In its latest report, it predicts the flattening of the demand of oil and gas. Oil and gas prices are extremely elastic, so a small change in the supply or demand will trigger a bigger change in the price. So, we are looking for cheaper oil and gas in the future, not more expensive. Also, we are looking for a decreased share of oil and gas in the consumption of energy resources.
So, don't worry, not only that we are not running out of oil and gas, but we are likely to depend less on them in the future. We are also likely to pay less for oil and gas in the future. If you enjoyed my movie, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Until next time, I wish you all the best.